Man, oh man, is there a lot going on in the world today. All of these things going on in the world sure do keep us distracted. I've been distracted by a lot of it myself. I've been having to remind myself that I gotta stay focused on the things that I've been doing that have changed things for me for the better. And that includes the carnivore way of eating, and that also includes proper exercise. But I had a couple of comments come from some people that remind me that I've got to cover some things. The first one I want to cover is not actually the one that prompted me to make this video today, but it was a good question that came up today that I'd like to cover. Some questions from RJLS-BF7HE. Did you have a sugar withdrawal? Also, how did you stay regular without fiber? Now this comment came on my video 3 years on the lion diet, a look back. My answer to him was, I don't remember anything like sugar withdrawal, but I did struggle with addiction to sugar and processed foods. When you're addicted to something, proximity and ease of access can make impulsive decisions easy to make and regret. I still struggle with that occasionally, but not nearly as much as I used to. The fiber issue is, in my opinion, based on research, a lie that started with French chemist Jean-Louis Albier and obtained widespread acceptance because of John Harvey Kellogg's zealotry for Seventh-day Adventism combined with a desire to sell cereal. I never eat foods that have fiber, and my bowels work just fine. It's not the same as when I ate fiber, but it's better, not worse. I don't need to go as often as I used to because my body uses nearly all of what I consume. Fiber is not digestible, so it is one of the reasons people who eat it have more waste. It's already waste going in, and it's also waste coming out. And it just adds to the stuff in natural food that your body processes as waste. I used to be constipated daily when I ate what is generally accepted as a well-balanced diet. I haven't had constipation in 3.5 years since changing to the lion diet lifestyle. I have experienced hard stool on a few occasions when I wasn't consuming enough fat, and therein lies the key. Many people who report constipation on a carnivore way of eating aren't consuming enough fat. A big reason for this is because we've been programmed to think of it as bad, and that probably even leads people to think of the texture of fat as disgusting. I know I used to feel that way, but what we believe about something can make all the difference. Now, I love fat, whether it's soft and viscous or crispy and juicy. Slow-cooked meats are usually missing a lot of the fat that would have been present because it renders out of the meat. One could drink the liquid fat, but in that form it tends to go through the digestive system too fast for most people, especially for someone like me who doesn't have a gallbladder to have bile stored in larger quantities for the purpose of digesting fat. I find adding rendered fat that has cooled or chunks of suet added to the slow cooker helps me with slow-cooked meats. Also, though cheese is a fat byproduct, most cheese on the market isn't really cheese. It's processed garbage, synthetically made. It's not far from being rubber. Some carnivores seem to rely on processed cheese for fat, and that junk will constipate anyone. Even real cheese can be a problem for people who have difficulties digesting dairy, period. Bottom line, on regularity on a carnivore way of eating is getting the right amount of fat. Too little equals harder stool, too much equals looser stool. Then he replied, "Thanks for the info. Wondering how this diet might affect a person struggling with gallbladder issues and infections often, since avoiding fat and fried foods are top priority for gallbladder issues." Now initially I responded to him with this, but after reading it again just now, I have another thought I want to add. From both experience and research, I can tell you avoiding fat is what causes most, if not all, gallbladder issues. Your body only releases bile from the gallbladder, or in my case from the bile duct since I no longer have a gallbladder, removed in 2002 after years of avoiding fat, when you eat fat for the bile to assist in digestion of that fat. If you avoid fat, bile just sits and becomes a sludge and eventually gallstones. Now the thing I want to add to that is he pointed out avoiding fried foods. The thing about fried foods is they're typically not fried in animal fat, they're fried in vegetable oil. And that vegetable oil certainly causes a problem because your body treats that very differently than it does animal fat. It's a total different type of fat, and those vegetable oils are horrible for your system. Essentially, you're consuming industrial lubricants, and those industrial lubricants don't go very far at lubricating what's going on in your body because they get solidified, and that's what causes a lot of the problem there. So definitely avoid those fried foods, but don't avoid good fat. The fat in this burger that I'm about to make is about 30% fat to 70% protein, which is a high fat burger. I wouldn't say it's super high fat, but it's fatty enough to give me what I need as far as the protein and the fat that I need to stay regular. Now I want to get to the question that brought me to make this video, but first I gotta make this burger because I want to eat soon. Here's a comment I often get about it not being about eating a carnivore way of eating, or specifically in my case, the lion diet. And they'll often point out that as long as you cut out processed foods and sugars, you can eat any diet you want. And to a degree, that's true. But in my situation, it was different. And I think in a lot of people's situation, it's going to be different, because at 48 years old, my body was greatly affected by the diet that I had been eating. The standard American diet, loaded with processed foods. I was eating vegetables. I was eating things that I thought were good for me, but I was also snacking on things that were definitely not good for me. So it was a mixed bag of different things. But in my case, I had leaky gut. Leaky gut is specifically caused by lectins that are found in vegetables. And I was eating a lot of vegetables. I was even using, I forget the name of the product, but it was some green powder that I would put in water once a day and drink that, and it was supposed to help with my digestion problems that I was having. The problems that I went to see doctors for that nobody seemed to have any answers for. And that's the reason that I did Lion Diet, because I found out that it would cure things that were either autoimmune related, or in my case, just a gut related problem that had to do with eating vegetables. Now my overall health was being greatly affected by the processed garbage I was eating. So to that degree, it's absolutely true. And that's why I encourage people like, for instance, my own family, who don't do a strict carnivore way of eating, to limit the amount of processed food, or eliminate is what I would encourage them to do, but I mean, I'm happy if they limit it at all, and to eat things that are more natural. The problem with vegetables and fruits these days is most of them aren't natural either. They've been hybridized, they've been crossbred to be sweeter, they've been crossbred to be more pest resistant, they've been sprayed with all kinds of chemicals, they use chemicals to make them ripen on the way to you, they use chemicals to keep the pests off of them. They even genetically modify them so that they don't have seeds and things like that to make them more desirable to eat. They genetically modify them to make them sweeter, so they're higher in carbohydrate content. And then on top of all that, we're not even cooking the vegetables properly. So let's get into his comment with all that in mind. Lion diet? Carnivore diet? No, it doesn't really matter what your diet is. Just don't eat processed sugars. The secret to health is at 1408. And he's talking about in my video, 3 years on the Lion Diet, a look back. He says, he walks. This is the secret, not a Lion Diet. As long as you walk or run every day, you will be healthy without Lion Diet. I was losing weight when I was running, walking, but I have had mainly veggies, fruits, and meats. Right now I started getting it back because I'm not moving enough. The Lion Diet, carnivore diet, will kill you if you're not moving. My response is, you assume too much. I walked because Lion Diet gave me my energy back, as well as relieved all of my gut pain, high blood pressure, and a host of other benefits. He goes on to argue with me about that point, and you can look up the comment if you want to. It was made by Alex K6745. Bottom line is, without Lion Diet, I would have never been able to do what I've been able to do. The first few months of eating the Lion Diet, I started feeling better immediately. Yes, I was cutting out ultra-processed foods, but I was also cutting out vegetables. I was cutting out the things that were causing the leaky gut problem for me. And a lot of people who have started this way of eating, or they started a standard carnivore way of eating, have wound up having a lot of similar benefits in that they're simply getting the weight off. having the weight on made it hard to even get up and want to exercise. Now, some people have that mental fortitude or whatever it takes to go out and do it anyway. I mean, some people have that David Goggins spirit, and I love David Goggins. I love what he talks about pushing yourself to do the things you got to do. I have to push myself every single morning to get up and do the things that I've been doing lately, because as I've gotten away from it, I've noticed a decline as well. So I'm not arguing that you don't need to get up and move, but I still would have been much trimmer. I still stayed under 200 pounds even without all the extra exercise, which is amazing. I've only been under 200 pounds when I was a child. Not even a teenager yet, I was under 200 pounds. But at age 51, it's the first time I've been able to maintain a weight under 200 pounds. Now, when I got down to my lowest was when I was doing the most walking, and I was also rucking, wearing a 40-pound vest on, 20 pounds in the front, 20 pounds in the back. And I've been doing that consistently now for about a week, a little over a week, because I'm doing a 30-day challenge where I'm going to eat regular amounts of fat in my diet instead of adding a whole lot of fat. I wanted to compare the difference of not doing a high-fat version of carnivore diet, but I'm also getting consistent about my exercise again. 3 weeks prior to my starting rucking, I just started walking again, just so I could get in the routine. And there is definitely something to be said for getting into a routine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with what he's saying about getting up and moving, but I am saying that I know for a lot of people, because it was for me, it's almost impossible to do that when you feel the way you feel on all of the food that you've been eating. When you get that stuff out of your life, and when you're able to cure those problems that were hurting you, holding you back, making you have brain fog, making you feel sick and unhealthy, and when you did exercise, you felt like you didn't do anything because you couldn't do it long enough or hard enough to feel like you got any benefit from it. The diet is what changed everything for me. I'd have never been able to get where I am now without changing the way I eat first. I would have never been able to overcome the gut problems without using specifically the Lion diet. That's not going to be the same for everybody. Some people are going to be able to do exactly what he said and cut out the processed foods, cut out the sugars, cut out the seed oils, and you will get healthier. But if you were where I was, you might find that you need to go a step further, that a carnivore way of eating is going to be necessary to overcome those challenges that you're currently facing. That going with something as strict as I had to do, the Lion diet, was necessary to overcome the illnesses, the problems that I had brought on myself through years of following nutritional advice, years of trying to get out and exercise, years of doing things where I do a short period of time where I would exercise regularly and then fall off of it, then get back on it again, then get back off of it again. And I'm still struggling with that. But even when I struggle with the exercise, the diet, the way of eating still keeps me in better shape than I've been in throughout my life. But when I add the exercise, when I make sure I'm doing the walking and I'm being consistent and I'm sleeping properly, getting up at the same time every day, trying to go to bed at close to the same time every day so that I'm getting the right amount of sleep, I'm keeping my circadian rhythm in balance, all of this stuff plays a role. But it started with the diet. So that's what I'm saying when I tell you the diet was the key. The diet changed everything. If it wasn't for Lion diet, I never would have been able to do all of those other things. And I think for most people, it's going to be key for getting those first steps going, because that's the hard part, is getting those first steps going. But when you have that energy and you feel better and you want to get out and go walk and you want to get out and exercise and you want to add a little more and a little more because you feel like you're actually making progress, it all started with diet for me. And that's going to be true for a lot of people. Not everybody's built the same. Some people are naturally going to be easily in shape. I know when I was growing up, my very best friend in the world had one of those bodies that was just always lean and trim. He looked like he was cut and worked out all the time, but he never worked out and he ate pure garbage all the time. His body could handle it. He was genetically able to do that for a long time. Now, we're both in our 50s, and he's gained a lot of weight and has a lot of problems, and I've been able to reverse that. But all of my life, I struggled with it. All of his life, he didn't struggle with it. I'm not trying to put him down for where he is now. I'm not trying to say anything negative about anybody, but I'm telling you that each of our bodies are different, And if you're like me and you had those struggles, you're going to find that getting on the right diet is going to change everything for you. It's not only changed it for me physically, it's changed it for me mentally, and it's even changed it for me spiritually. Check out some of my other videos for information on how it's changed me mentally and physically in ways that I never thought diet would have a role in. And be sure to check back at the end of my 30-day challenge that I'm doing, because I'm going to put out a video showing where I was when I started on July 15th to where I'll be at August 14th, and we'll see how the difference looks. That's all I got for this one, guys. I'll see you next time.
If we pay extra, could we maybe get some grease or fat?